New videos every day.
I'm John Breeding. It's 2008, January 5th to be precise. 2008, I guess that makes me 55 years old and counting. I was asked to do a video today on political psychiatry. Well, that's really a redundancy since all psychiatry is political and all my videos really can be interpreted that way. Thomas Zott still remains the great interpreter or translator of language. My personal mentor is Leonard Roy Frank, translating psychiatric language into plain speech, seeing the political ramifications of psychiatry. In any event, the analogy that really settled for me comes from Thomas Zott's 1974 masterpiece, The Manufacture of Madness. The subtitle of that is A Comparative Study of the Inquisition and the Mental Health Movement. And here's the analogy. The Inquisition is to heresy as psychiatry is to mental illness. So we could stop right there. The Inquisition is to heresy as psychiatry is to mental illness. And you could just take that as a contemplation for a while, and eventually you would comprehend a great deal about modern day mental health system. Very simply put, during the Inquisition, heretics were tortured and killed in the name of saving their souls. Priests went after heretics who presumably were possessed by the devil. And there was all kinds of impossible ways for these alleged heretics, mostly women, to be trapped and no way out. You know, if your body floated when you're thrown with millstones in the water, you're a witch. If it doesn't, you're not a witch, but you're dying, you're going to go to heaven anyway. Right? The Inquisition is to heresy as psychiatry is to mental illness. You deny your mental illness, that's a symptom of your mental illness. And you're coercively forced to be treated. You accept your mental illness, and you're a good patient, appreciating your kind, benevolent doctor, and you still get treated. You get the idea? But what both of these really have in common is that they're state mechanisms of social control. Psychiatry is an agency of social control and a way to enforce power and authority of those who have power. The power of the church, controlling the state apparatus and the economics and structure of the church. The power of psychiatry to enforce the mechanisms that authorize and govern psychiatry. It's pretty simple. You know, in today's time, it basically means that you can enforce social control outside of the criminal system. Now, Zott has written plenty, and it's easy to study this, those of you who are interested, in terms of the interface between psychiatry and the law. It's not that clean. It's totally messy, right? But a simple way of thinking about it is that if you're not going to bring in criminality as a way to incarcerate and separate somebody and enforce some sort of social norm or rule, then you can bring in psychiatry. So I'm just going to make 4 main points here, okay? Number 1, I've already made. Psychiatry enforces conformity without bringing in the criminal justice system. Psychiatrists are authorized by the state to do that. You can say somebody's behaving in a way you don't like, and psychiatry can judge that and enforce that and treat that without having to resort to, you've broken a law, and so we're going to incarcerate you. Right? You can do this in a more subtle way, just by the fact of this existence of this state authority. And keep in mind, 1.5 million Americans incarcerated every year against their will who haven't committed a crime. That's huge numbers. I'm talking about psychiatric incarceration, so-called involuntary commitment, right? And then there's many more nowadays who have involuntary outpatient commitment. So not really committed, but they're court-ordered to take drugs. In other words, to be poisoned for their behavior. So it keeps people afraid, keeps you in line. Watch out, or else the men in the white coats will come and get you. Right? Remember the joke? The difference between a psychotic and a mystic? The mystic knows who not to talk to. But it's not a joke about just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. You know, being afraid of that dynamic. And then it's real subtle. It goes on down. So the use of language, being shamed as a loony, as a sicko, as a psychopath, as a neurotic, you know. We all want to be normal, right? See my other video, psychology test. Are you normal? You know, to look at that dynamic. So enforces conformity without criminality, keeps people afraid. Number 3, and this is here where we're getting to the real bottom line here, is it protects power. Political psychiatry. Psychiatry supposedly it is actually a branch of medicine. It's not really medical science, but it's legally and structurally a branch of medicine. Right? Politics maybe can be defined as dispute over the power or authority to define other people's reality. A lot of times in political situations, it ultimately comes down to the force of the state. The police state, the military state, in this case, the psychiatric state that comes in with force. The saying is there can be no truly voluntary psychiatry as long as the threat of involuntary psychiatry is there. It's called the iron fist and the velvet glove. You know that dynamic. I talked about it right at the beginning, right? You go along with the doctor and you're all sweet and velvety. You resist and the power of the state comes down and locks you up and forcibly drugs you. I call it a magic trick. I write about this in all my books, but one particularly, The Necessity of Madness and Unproductivity. You can find these on my website, wildestcults.com, right? It's a magic trick. It's like, oh, you've got a problem? Ah, I've explained it. You're mentally ill. You're depressed. You're schizophrenic. You're ADHD. You're bipolar. You're whatever, right? And that explains it. It's a biological or genetic defect that resides in you that's causing this problem. And the magic trick is voila. Everybody is absolved of responsibility to think any further. Maybe you've got to confront your life, or maybe you've got to challenge your alcohol and drug addiction, you know, or your unhappy marriage. Or maybe the school system is really screwed for a lot of kids, you know. Or maybe you're not taking care of your kids and you got to confront your lifestyle. Or maybe we as a society are just drugging our kids into oblivion and we don't have to confront that. Or maybe there's issues of social and economic justice that need to be thought about. I really want you people out there who really care about the society and look at things, you know, and who look at issues of social and economic justice to consider that when you accept this eugenic idea, this biological and genetic idea that the problems come from this defect in this individual, you stop thinking anymore. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative, it's the same dynamic. I think we need to confront issues of social and economic justice and not just call people names and accept a pseudoscientific belief system that we've been conditioned into by constant media propaganda. And so that's why I'm challenging that. But the point is, psychiatry is political. It's enforcing power. And it's a form of oppression and all oppression has a claim to virtue, remember. Slavery, oh, those black people are inferior and they need our help. That's white people. Women, they're ordained by God to serve man and need to keep their place because men are superior. So races against each other, workers against each other, and nobody looks at the structure of the society and whether that really serves life or not. So it's political. It's political, just like eugenics was political for the Nazis to exterminate the Jews and assert their power. That belief system that Jews were genetically defective was a political dynamic. Similarly, the belief system that these millions of children are genetically defective, or these millions of schizophrenics, or these millions of bipolar people. It's all a lie. Fraud, fraud, fraud. But it's politics, and it's very effective politics. It keeps us all distracted from really confronting and thinking. And what does that really serve? I mean, even today, a lot of people, you hear the word fascism and people think of Nazis, although really they should be thinking of Mussolini and seeing a little different dynamic with the Nazis. But in any event, fascism, technically, as I understand it, really means a marriage of government and business, of government and corporations. And so when you have fascism, you don't have a government that represents the people, you have a government that represents a controlling elite of economically powerful people, and the government serves those interests. Right? Psychiatry is political. It serves the interests. It keeps you from confronting that structure, and it brings massive profits directly into that structure. Because one of the main dynamics in terms of corporate life today is the pharmaceutical industry, one of the most massively profitable. They bailed out psychiatry a while back. They fund psychiatry, the conferences, the journals, the benefits for the docs, all that stuff. And they mass enormous profits from selling these drugs. Billions and billions and billions of dollars, creating lifelong product markets. Psychiatry is political at every level. That's the bottom line. If you don't understand that, then you're just lost in this veil of illusion, this enchantment that says, oh, it's medicine. Oh, it's psychiatry. Oh, it's illness. And you are in a fog. And your reality is controlled. You have lost that political battle because you've given them the ability to define your reality in a way that is false and hopeless and degrading. That's political psychiatry.